Welcome to Sidekicks with Heather Goodenkoff and Lolo, where we get a chance to talk with your favorite authors and their pets. And I'm so thrilled. Today we get to talk to Lesley Kagen. Lesley is the New York Times bestselling author of 9 novels, including the highly anticipated upcoming Every Now and Then, which received a starred review in Publishers Weekly.
I know. Oof.
They said Kagen spinfully spins a nostalgic tale. This fast-paced and suspenseful outing will captivate Kagen's fans and do much to win her new ones. And I'm getting a sneak peek and absolutely loving it. So excited to talk about that. But today you brought with you, first of all, your
Come here, come up here a little bit. Come here.
This
Come
is
here.
Cabo?
Oh, come here. This is Cabo. Come on. Oh, yes, come here. What do I have? Come here. Come up here. You're usually so on top of me. Come here. Hop. Come on. Oh,
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I don't know. That chair's kind of small. Say hi. Say hi. Look. Oh, there he is. Oh, yum. Yeah, there he is.
Tell us about Cabo. How did he get his name?
First of all, you got to see the size of this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he is gigantic. Look at his head. I mean,
how much does he weigh?
It's over 100 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's I mean, it's just such a great story. Our kid, he lives with the kids. I mean, we sort of have community dogs in our family. Everybody shares all the animals. So my daughter already has 2 cats, and we had another dog at the time. And we thought, the kids said, well, we want a new dog. We want a puppy. So we went to the Humane Society out here, and we thought, well, there wasn't I was thinking something smallish, Casey, well, let's just look around. I said, okay. So we came across this guy, who really, he's bigger now, but he wasn't that much smaller than he is now. He was, I think, around 3 months. So pretty, older.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't come out of, there's sort of that viewing room always. And he wouldn't come out of his crate. So can you please show your handsome face?
So sweet.
He's the gentle giant. But on that day, he had lots of problems. He came, we think, from someplace down south, and probably had been rescued and had been in a crate or a cage his whole life. He didn't really know how to come out of the crate. So the woman who showed us the dog, she saw us and the 2 kids, and she, sort of tried to dissuade us, which doesn't happen very often at the Humane Society. And she said, he doesn't want to come out of his crate, and he doesn't want to go on walks, and he's not potty trained. Well, my thinking immediately, as sort of a mom and everything, and with the kids and everything else, was, this probably is not going to work out. This, potty training a dog this big, and it just maybe not for our family, right? So then the kids did the cutest thing. They started to play peekaboo with him, and they'd look around the corner, and then they pull back, and then they look around the corner, and then they pull back. And he eventually came out of the crate to check to see the kids. And so my daughter was immediately sold. And I'm like putting duct tape over my mouth, so I'm not, going, no, don't do this. It's going to be horrible. I've had so many animals in my life, and I'm really familiar with what it takes to potty train a dog, and to,
A lot of work.
Yes, and it was just a lot. It was a lot at that time. And I said, well, just don't say anything for once in your life, Lesley. Just keep your mouth shut about this. It's really hard with your kids, right? Not to go. you want them not to make any mistakes or so then she's okay, let's meet him. So we went to the little room and he was really scared. He was scared and uncertain and unconfident, did not know how to act really around people. um, the woman said to us at the time, I'm pretty sure you're never going to get this dog out on a leash. And so you're going to have to pick him up every single time you want to take him outside. Is that something you really want to do? I'm like, oh my God, that's not going to work. That's terrible idea. So Casey and I really involved with horses my whole life, and my daughter as well. So we're talking, long, long time, involving much larger animals than Cobby. So we just looked at each other, and she's saying, you want to, make sure the dog. It's all his idea. Now, I don't really go along with that philosophy with animals. I really feel strongly that animals need a pack leader. So Casey and I looked at each other, and I thought, well, that's a challenge. So I said, okay, okay. And I thought she was going to say, okay, no, thank you. And she said, okay, we'll take him.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, just still don't say anything. He is, I've probably had 20 plus dogs in my life, and he is like the shining star. And I've loved them all, of course. Look at Lolo's little hand on
We
it.
want more treats.
Yeah. I, um, he is the sweetest, most gentle animal for his size. I mean, if you would see him walking, when we walk him, you'd go, oh my God, that's a beast. But he's so sweet and so good with the kids. And I mean, we just love him to death. He's just astounding. Now, that's my dog here. Now, I probably spend a good 75% of my time here because the kids are home. We decided that it would be the best to virtually school them this semester. Um, the cases of COVID are just rampant in Iowa too right now, as well as Wisconsin. So I think we made a really good choice. But my daughter needs to work, so they have lots of questions. They're still pretty young, and especially my 7-year-old. So I'm basically, doing what you did all those years. I'm being a teacher and a helper. So
Great that you can do that and are able to help out that way. It's such a big thing to be able to do because so many families are in different situations where it's like that. What do you do? It's such a hard time.
it's so hard, and my heart goes out to people. It really does. I mean, there aren't any really. I mean, I think if you can stay home with your kids, to keep them safe, especially if you're in a hot spot like we are. That's probably the safest and healthiest thing to do. But some families just can't. I mean, they just can't. They can't pay their rents or their mortgages or put food on the table unless both parents are working. So there's no, my heart goes out to those families.
An easy answer, but you get to have the special time with your grandkids, and
Yes.
that's something that will stick with them forever, and it'll be something you'll remember forever, and be
It's not always that special though.
I'm sure.
It's hard. I mean, teachers, as everyone said, after going through this, teachers should be making $1 million a year. It is difficult, and we're only dealing with 2. How you run a classroom with 30 kids? I don't. And the hardest part of this for me, in a lot of ways, is keeping them home because I was really involved with their school, really, really involved. And, we'd bring the dogs in and the cats. And I mean, it's a fantastic school. I also taught reading and helped with writing it's elementary school. So, and we also had a comedy club,
Oh,
which was like the fourth grade comedy club was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. They're
fourth
so,
graders are funny. I taught fourth graders for years, and
so then you know, right?
perfect age to get
To do a comedy club, right?
yeah.
Yeah, they're hilarious. And one, I won, they like all that physical humor. So I brought like a little farting machine one day, and I thought, oh, this was going to be great. So we messed with that, and then I said, okay, now guys, where would something like this really be funny to use? Trying to situationally. They tell jokes and all of these things, and one of the things was the props, and either a whoopee cushion, a little farting machine. So they all went around the room to tell, like, oh, we could use that here, or hi Combo. Charlie, come here and say hi real quick. Say hi to my friend Heather. You can't take off your mask though.
Hello.
Okay, go away now. You can't put your mask on. We all have to wear masks. So they're all raising their hands, and one person says, oh, this would be really good. Maybe at a restaurant when you're waiting in line. I went, oh, that would be good. Would be good. Oh, how about church? That would be also a really good place. And then one little girl raises her hand and said, I think you could really use a farting machine at a funeral. I said, listen, there you go. That isn't that bad of an idea.
No.
It's a situation. So, I mean, I really miss that. There's, it's hard. It's not perfect. Charlie, go away now.
We love it. We love it here.
One of my sidekicks, two of my sidekicks happen to actually be humans. So, yeah.
And I didn't mention it earlier, but you have been an actress for. I mean, you have a long history in
50 years now.
Yeah.
50 years, which is to me unbelievable. I can't, I don't do too much acting any, not like I'm not doing plays or, any of that stuff. Of course, there isn't any of that stuff right now. I still do occasional voiceovers. I did the voiceover for the trailer, the book trailer for Every Now and Then.
Yes.
Yeah, and had to do it in one take because we were also paranoid. We recorded it down at the library, and my friend librarian Jeff Masserman shot the exteriors, and I came in to do the voiceover. And we were also paranoid about being in the library.
Sure.
And I said, okay, so I had to do it in one take. So I thought it turned out, I think, pretty wonderfully. So yeah, so I do stuff like that, and occasionally I'll have an old client, call me and say, hey. And I've done the narration for, I think, did I do it for 2 or 3 of the audiobooks?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did it for Whistling. I think Whistling. I think I did for Whistling and Good Graces and Tomorrow River, maybe. So for 3 of them.
That's a huge talent. And we were talking earlier, and I said I am not a public speaker, so you should be the one who's doing these interviews with authors.
No, you're doing awesome. These are awesome. I've watched probably 95% of them, and they're great. But it's like we were talking about earlier. I mean, you and I have known each other for a really long time. I first, and I never told you this, I don't think, but I first heard your name, I'm going to say back in like 2011, 2010, right when These Things Hidden was coming out. And I was standing in a bookstore, and I turned to the bookseller and I said, so, you got anything good? I said, anybody been around? And because right around the corner, I mean, I was there almost every day buying books, etc. So she said, yeah, there's this writer from Iowa I think you're going to like. She was just here. And it was at Next Chapter. I don't even know if you remember that appearance. I didn't see your appearance, or if you'd maybe just come in to sign. I'm not sure. And she handed me your book.
Oh,
and I went, oh, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. And so we've known each other for, almost 10 years.
Yeah,
So it's a pretty long time. Yeah.
meet in person and go out to dinner, and it was so
Yeah.
yeah. So
I got to meet your mom and dad. Your mom cracked me up. I have to fall asleep at night. And I think of her almost every night. I have to tell you. And I'll tell you why. Because every night I can't go to sleep without some sort of white noise. And so I have on my iPad, I have the iPad, I've got a sound, like a sound machine that makes rain. And I think at dinner we were talking about this.
yeah.
She said, she was saying she couldn't sleep. I said, oh, you got to get like a white noise machine or something.
And she got one, and it helps. She uses it every night.
All right. That was great. But what she said at the time was, really? She said, well, what do you listen to? I said, well, I listen to rain. And she said, no, that's not a good idea. That didn't only make me want to wake up in the middle of the night and pee. And right? So every mom's funny, Charlie. Yeah.
That is
sounds like her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then we went over and we watched your appearance at Boswell, and your sisters were there too, I think.
Yeah, I had. Everybody came in to support me that time, so it was a lot of fun. It was
that was great.
But speaking of books and books coming out, you have a new one hitting the shelves. Like probably by the time this airs, it will have hit the shelves. Every now and then. I'm reading it, I'm loving it, and I cannot wait for readers to dig into this. I mean, booksellers and early readers have just been raving about it. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. This book for me, I mean, I love it, of course. I'm deeply in love with the girls.
Yeah. Those three friends. Yeah.
That friendship that they have. I think I partially wrote this because as a child, I mean, I had not the world's greatest childhood. And I was a bit of a loner growing up. And I always wanted to have friends. And I had, I did, but nothing like these girls have. That kind of friendship, those super supportive. I have friends from like 5th and 6th grade that I still, chat with and know and all of that stuff. And we'll do memory stuff. But these girls are entwined for life. And you get to see them sort of from the very beginning of their relationship. And the book starts out, the girls are just about to turn 12, which is such that age where they're, starting to shift from being kids to grown-ups. It's that brink of womanhood. And they're starting to understand that things aren't always what they seem. And that maybe even their sweet little town, Summit, is not quite as all-American apple pie as it appears on the surface, which was the case in 1960. In many instances, I grew up in the city. So I grew up on the west side of Milwaukee in sort of a blue-collar neighborhood. And, people say, oh, the good old days. And I go, listen, there's stuff going on back then. Exactly. So much of it as right now. The difference was we didn't know about it. And so much of it got swept under the rug. And so you see that happening in Summit with the girls. Every summer they spend in their Taj Mahal of tree houses. And they sleep there every single night. And there's Frankie and Viv and Biz. And they all have 3 very distinct personalities. And Viv, Biz is the narrator, Elizabeth Buchanan, and she's sort of kind of the voice of reason to a certain extent. And so, although the book is narrated by a 70-year-old Biz, she's focusing on that summer that the girls were that age, were 12. And there's, they're thinking, well, they're just going to have a great summer. And, there's a horrible heat wave going on. They're trying to do the best they can. And there's all the little ins and outs of Aunt Jane May, who is effectively raising all 3 of the girls during the summer. And just the stuff that they get into, and they're suspecting as the book starts that Aunt Jane might have a love interest. So of course that's big news, and they're going to track down who the heck it is. And then it sort of starts to get a little bit out of control when they start doing their summer visits to the mental patients at Broadhurst Mental Asylum. Broadhurst, um, eh, all of the issues in this book, racism, mental illness, the otherness of people, of not quite fitting in, even same-sex love, they're all things that are touched on within the book. And as I was writing this, I kept thinking, shouldn't we be a lot farther than we are now in so many? I mean, there have been improvements certainly since 1960, but we're still grappling with this so much as people now, especially racism. And so that's also touched on in the book. There's lots of, I think, wonderful characters. It's definitely, someone said, well, this is a slow burn. And it's definitely a slow burn of a novel. It's I like to start things out at a certain pace, and then kind of let the characters do their thing and see what the heck happens.
That's
And
what I'm loving about it. Just getting to know the character. You get to know the characters so well, and you become so invested in their stories and their lives, and then you see this real life kind of come crashing in on them and how they handle it. And so it's amazing.
oh, thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, it culminates in a couple of pretty scary scenes at the end when, literally all hell breaks loose, and what they think is happening is not happening. And there have been trusts broken and people that they believed in. And it's been, to me, I was surprised by the ending. Like, I know how you write. You have these amazing boards with everything sort of mapped. When I first saw you do that, my jaw dropped. I went, oh my God.
That doesn't always work, Lesley. It looks really good, but boy, I think the characters kind of take over sometimes, don't they?
They do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're so good about plot. And I would, plots for me always are different. I don't ever, someone said, well, do you think of a story? And then you write, and I go, no, I just sort of think of like where I want to be.
Yeah.
That's setting always comes first for me. Like, okay, this book took me between when I first started writing it until Tuesday when it comes out on October 6th. 3 years. It's been a tough haul. And hey, I'm going to be here for a while. I want to be happy with where I am. So that the sense of place is extremely important to me in writing. And then the characters. And then I'll sort of just get this vibe. It's pretty magical, right? Writing, it's pretty magical.
Yes, when all those pieces start to come together, and
yeah, it's magical. Something happens, you go, oh, I'm in the groove. Oh, this is it. Oh, it's happening. I'm loving, and then I wait to see what the heck happens. And so I was surprised by a lot of the stuff, especially with the sort of the revelation near the end with Frankie. And so there was stuff that, I mean, I'm not sure that anybody can ever be as entertained by my books as I am, because I don't know what's going to happen. And then when it happens, I'm always like, oh my. I mean, I'm always blown away.
But I think that's what makes it so great for readers when the author is surprised too in the work.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
Fresh and interesting for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we do have to sit with our books for so long and be in that place and the settings that we create, that we have to love it and be enamored with it to spend that amount of time. So yeah. Well,
I'm always blown away by writers who you know, the whole, oh, I'm going to set my book in the 17th century in France. And I'm like, oh, you are? Oh, I could never do that. Everything that I write has to somehow be grounded in either a place I've lived, or so I could get a deep, deep sense of what everything smells like and what it feels like and what it looks like. Um, I admire that. I admire other, you know, oh, let's set one in outer space. I'm like, no, I couldn't do that.
I'm the
Let's,
same way. That's why all my books are set in Iowa.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. So, you know, most of mine set in Wisconsin, a small town, or the city, and then a couple of them were set down south, very close to where my daughter went to school, went to college. So I was down there. She went you know, she went both to undergrad and law school down there. So I was there a lot. So I thought, oh, I think maybe one of these times I'll, you know, I'll set a book in Virginia. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Leslie, thank you so much for being here
Oh,
today.
don't go. Cobby,
Congratulations.
can you say good? Wait, Cobby wants to say hi one more time. Can you say hello? Come here, show us yourself.
Oh,
Oh,
so sweet.
oh, such a handsome
So
boy.
good.
Oh, look at you, handsome man.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so handsome.
Well, thank you
He's,
so much. And I know that readers are in for such a treat with Every Now and Then. And
gosh, I hope so. I hope everybody loves it. Just, you know, a tinge as much as I do, because, you know, and I also think, don't you think, real quickly, there's sort of a sense of solace about reading it. There's sort of I don't know, a certain comfort, but that could just be me. Do you feel that?
no, when I, jump into the pages, it's like jumping back into my own childhood, with, you had your little core group of friends, and, your whole world was your neighborhood, your whole,
Yes.
that was your universe. And just being pulled back into that, even though it was a very complicated book, complicated time, and they're very
Yes.
complicated issues, it feels like a simpler time.
It does.
It
And
feels
I don't know why that is exactly, but I remember thinking that when I read the manuscript, like, um, this is, you know, sometimes, and I know you must experience this too, you finish a book and then you might go back and read it again 6 months later, and your own book that you've created, you're thinking to yourself, I didn't really notice that before. Or isn't that unusual? I didn't really pick up on that when I was writing it. Does that happen to you too?
It does. Yeah. And an example I can think of is for my first book, um, I was at a book event and the moderator was asking about themes. And I'm like, are there themes in my book?
I know that feeling.
Yeah, there were. And
I'm laughing because the same thing happened to me. They said, oh, this is such a metaphor for whistling in the dark. This is such a metaphor for when I went, what? Metaphor? What do you, I'm not aware. Or they'll say at a book event, well, what about this underlying, subplot? I go, what? What underlying subplot? Oh,
I could
well.
tell the story.
Yeah. Just telling the story. That's all. Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful story, beautifully written.
Thank you. And I love This Is How I Lied.
Thank
This
you.
is how I lied, everyone.
Thanks so much, Lesley. And we're going to have to do this again.
We have to. It's just so great to see you, and say hi to your mom.
I sure will.
Tell her I think about her every night.
Thanks, Lesley. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Heather. You too.